folks, look what we are working on today. This is my old Corsair Air 540 case. This is the one that I was using for my network attached storage, plus the cable TV tuner card. But I no longer need it, and if for anybody who's seen it before, the guy that I did the Dragon theme computer build for, I'll leave a link to that video down in the description. He has moved into a house, and the area that he has designated for himself, the Cooler Masters CM Storm Striker case, is far too big for that area. So he's getting this case, which is smaller. And what we're going to be doing to it is a little bit interesting. I've been starting to play with epoxy resins. So what I wanted to do with this was kind of not necessarily stick with the dragon theme, but still stick with like a stone theme. So one of the sample boards I made up is this guy here. You can see it looks somewhat like a marble-ish, like an exotic stone. It's going to look similar to this. I've practiced a little bit more and I've gotten a little bit better at this. So this is what we're doing for the exterior because he likes white cases, so we're sticking with like a marbly look. What I'm going to do is all the outside is going to have that, and then the inside is just going to get painted white. So you know, the color flows. These are the front panels. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I painted these a candy purple. They actually look a little bit pink. One thing about candies is the more layers you put down, the richer the color. So I didn't put enough coats down, so it looks more pinkish than it does purple. But it served its purpose at the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tear this case down, and then I'll lay all the pieces out on the table and get started on the epoxy, and I will walk you guys through the process of that. So, see you in a bit. Okay, here we are. I've got all of the plastic pieces laid out. I don't have the front and rear panels set up here because obviously I don't have enough space for it. But what I also did was I sanded all the pieces with 220 grit sandpaper. That'll give the epoxy something to grip onto. And I've also taped off areas that I don't want epoxy to get into because they're pretty tight tolerances that they gotta, these pieces gotta fit together. So I didn't want them to have a big buildup. So what I'm gonna do is you pour your epoxy, and once it starts to gel over, that's when you can go ahead and peel your tape off. That won't, drip down into all the areas. So what we're working with is this white opaque pigment and we add that to the epoxy. We've also got some gold metallic spray paint, white spray paint, and we've also got some gloss black spray paint. So the epoxy is going to cover the everything, and then we're going to go ahead and put details in with the spray paints. The reason we're using the spray paints is because they're going to react differently with the epoxy, and they're going to give you some different effects. Basically, we're just going to spray it like the black. I'm going to spray directly onto a brush and tap it around, and that's going to give us our black veins. And then I'm going to spray some of the gold onto just a little stick like this and just kind of like drag it through just to give it some minor highlights to make it look more exotic. And then do the same thing with the white because that's going to give us a different shade of white and give it a little bit more of a 3D effect. So I'm going to readjust this camera and we'll get started. Well, this is interesting. As you can see here, the epoxy did not stick to the 2-in-1 paint and primer. So, and also, it turned blue. As you can see, the little color difference there. What I think happened was it softened the plastic a little bit and pulled some of the color into it. But you can see, like, these are the spots here. It didn't stick to the 2-in-1. So what I'm going to have to do is sand all of this off, which that's going to take forever. But I got to sand it all off, back down to the plastic. And then I'm just going to use a regular gray primer. I want it to stick with the white, but maybe I'll go out and get some white. But you can see here I already started sanding. This is going to take forever. So I'll get on that, and then I'll get back to you guys. See you in a bit. So after that explanation, here we are with a different type of primer laid down. This is gray, so we might actually have a bit of a darker white than I wanted, but this is what we're gonna do. So I've already gone and mixed up our white. So I'm gonna go ahead and add in the hardener, and we're gonna go ahead and pour this, and then we'll start putting on some color. Now we can see here that I laid it on real light, just so that way I'm gonna leave this sit just like I did the last time. In about an hour or so we'll come back, and this layer should be tacky, but not fully, you know, it shouldn't move, but it should be you know, sticky. And then our next layer should stick to that really nicely. So hopefully we don't have the same problem we did with the last one, and see you guys in an hour. Okay, so here we are at the B stage. Now the way that you can tell that is by if you touch it, it'll stick, but nothing sticks to your glove. See that? Nothing's sticking. So that means that it's ready for the next layer, and the next layer will stick to it. Now with this mix, I mixed in less white than I did with the last batch because it's not needed. So hopefully it will just layer on and it'll be good. Now as far as colors, we're going to be using all the same stuff that I originally had. I got some gloss black, some white, and some gold to give it that exotic look. The only thing that I'm adding that I didn't put in the thing was I got a spray bottle here with some isopropyl alcohol. What we're going to be doing with this is we're going to kind of like spritz it in places. What it's going to do is it's going to, because everything is dissimilar to each other, all these, the epoxy, the paints, and everything is all dissimilar to each other, they all want to fight and oppose each other. So by putting some, like just spritzing a little bit of that alcohol in certain places, it's actually going to fracture the paint, and it's going to put all these neat little cells in it. So it's going to, like, you know, it's going to look cool. So I'm going to get this hardener in here, I'm going to mix it up, and then we will get some color down. Okay, so we got our white down. You can see, like here on the edge here, you can still see through the white, and you can see the black underneath. That's okay, I can come in and touch that up later. What I'm more concerned about now are these flat top surfaces, because this is where our color and our effect is going to be. All these other edges and things, those are just, you know, those are the sides of the things. We can touch them up after it's done. Okay, so how we're going to do this to start is I'm just going to take my black and I'm just going to shoot a nice little puddle right there on our paper. And then I'm going to take our brush and I'm going to just get some on the brush, just like that. And then I'm just going to start going around like this. Got a little too heavy there, so we'll pick some of that up and bring it this way. See, because I have these things laid down in the way that they're going to get put back onto the case. So when it goes back together, I want all of these lines to actually line up. Put a little bit more down here, go a little over here, like that. I'll take a little bit more of this over here, just a little bit up there, throw some of this up here, and a little pile down there, a little there. Okay, now I'm going to start adding some veins, and how I'm going to do that is, again, I'm going to take the black and a paint stir, and I'm just going to spray some right on the stir like that, and I'm going to start drawing lines in the epoxy. So okay that they're deep, they're very dark, because we're going to be messing with that. And when you do this, some people like to kind of like trail them off like that. The best thing to do is to make straight lines, because we're actually going to be changing this. We're going to be moving it around with some hot air, and that's what's going to give us our actual natural look to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just yeah, let's see, what do we think? I think another one up there would actually look good right up here. So we're going to go ahead and align just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and take our white and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just spray it right on the paint stir and just travel it just straight along with those black lines that we did. And you'll see that the white paint and the white epoxy, they don't mix well together. They oppose each other actually, and that's what's going to give us a good contrast. So I think that's going to be good for the white. Now we're going to go for our exotic. And we're going to take some gold. Same thing, just right on our paint stick, and we're going to go with those lines. That's better. Okay, that looks good for now. Now I'm going to take my hot air gun, and I'm just going to kind of direct it into different directions, so it looks kind of like it's naturally flowing through the stone. Now that hot air there was just enough. Oops, was just enough to get all this stuff moving. I'm bringing closer here, so you can actually see all these colors here. We got our black vein, we got our white base, we have our black vein. You can actually see like up in here, there's a little bit of contrasting whites, and then we have our gold to make it exotic. And this is where we chopped it with the brush, just to make it look a little bit more natural. Some subtle veins. Same thing up here. This one looks really good. Look at that one. And up here, this one looks really good too. Down here, okay, I think we're gonna need some more gold on this one. This one here looks good. So overall, this is starting to look fantastic. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put another little shot of gold right here on this guy. Okay, and we'll get our heat back. And I think that we are actually looking really, really good. I hope it actually stays like this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take my isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to bring you down here so you can actually see what this does. So, we're just going to give it a little spritz. And you see how that splits up and gives you all those little cells? Let's try to get this guy up here. There you go. Now you can see that one. See how it just split up like that and all them little cells? Okay. But we are looking smashing. We'll put this over here. So here's one of the front panels, and you can see it's looking really, really good here. I'm trying to get the best light. But this is our exotic marble for the Corsair Air 540. So now I'm going to give this a full 24 hours to dry up and settle in. And then when we're to come back in, actually I'm going to come back after about an hour or so, once we're at the B stage again, and I'm going to peel off all of the tape, because if we leave it hardened completely, then the tape is going to get locked under the epoxy. So after about an hour, I'll come in and I'll pull the tape off, and then after a day or so, I'll come back, you know, I'll do some touching up on here. I think I might actually like those lines though. I don't know. I'll wait till it's all completely dried up and see how it looks. But that's our marble. It looks amazing. Alright, so here's where we're at with the Corsair Air 540. I machined up this distribution block. This is going to be the reservoir, and then the water goes in the pump, exits the pump, and then from here it is going to exit to the graphics card, back into the graphics card, flow up to here, go into the CPU, come back from the CPU, up here, exit here, go into the radiator, exit the radiator, and back in. So everything's going to have, you know, there's going to be four horizontal tubes going this way, so the fluid's just going to keep going back and forth like this. What I had to do was over here, I had to cut this section to make clearance for these guys, and then down here in the corner, I also had to notch out this corner here so that this could fit in here. When I take this back off, I'm probably going to notch these off as well, just because from the front, you know, you can see them, and if I just notch these, if I just cut them off, it would make it look a lot better. Also, all these plastic parts, these things just pop off. You gotta take this part off first, but all these plastic parts just pop off, and the entire metal structure of the case is completely hidden other than what you see right here. So what I did was I took it over to an auto body shop. I know a guy, and we sprayed it with white. It's actually let me grab this. Super White Diamante Toyota 040. Here's the paint code if you are interested. The whole metal piece and the front here, it all got painted with automotive paint. You can see there. Do a little bit of polishing, that'll clean that up. And the reason that I did this first before I did any of the epoxy stuff is because I needed this here. I could have easily mounted this on the inside and just quickly, you know, took off those tabs there for the fans, but there's this gap here in the front where you would normally mount fans, and this piece goes here, and there's normally a like a screen behind it for you know, air filter. So what I wanted to do was, since that's obviously thicker than a fan, I needed to make that so I could mark off where I need to cut these. So I'm going to cut these railings here, so that way it's going to sit flush, and these will look like, you know, these will sit right flush with the top and the bottom of this reservoir, and then all of this will be exposed and all the other stuff will be covered up. So that's why I did that. So what I'm also going to do is this bottom piece. Way back in the day when I first bought this case, down here there's usually 2 hard drive sleds, and I cut this out and I put a piece of white acrylic in here just to lighten things up a little bit and clean up the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut this whole section out here, and I'm going to put a piece of acrylic on the bottom, piece of clear acrylic, and I'm going to try and machine a 3D texture on it that looks like kind of like stone. If anybody watched the video on the dragon theme build that I did a little while ago, this is going to that same guy. He bought a house. It's a smaller area, so this case fits better into that area. So I'm going to try and keep some of that. That's why we're going with the marble exterior, and then I'm going to add this with some red LEDs to make it, you know, kind of fading in and out red. Maybe we'll put some addressable LEDs in there and set them up. But that's where we're at. I gotta go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this up, and then I'll lay all these pieces out and I'll explain how we're gonna be doing this epoxy. Dun, da, da. Finally got all of the pieces back. The thing that took so long this time was I wanted these guys to be clear coated, and I didn't want to use an epoxy. I wanted some actual paint, So I had them go to a body shop and they got a nice wet coat of automotive clear. So now they're all nice and clean and nice and slick, smooth. Everything is glass-like. And now I get the pleasure of seeing if I can remember how to put this thing back together. There's a lot of screws and I don't remember where they all go. So, wish me luck. Now before we go ahead and get to the final B-roll and shots, there's one last thing that I did to bring this kind of up to bring it up to a little bit of an extra level that, the stuff that I like to do. Since we are going with a stone theme to this, the previous build that I did for him was a dragon theme, because he lately likes dragons, like I've mentioned probably about 20 times before. The one thing that I made for the bottom of the case, this guy. This is a volcanic landscape that I made. I did it up with this is a layer of clear acrylic and then another, I think it was like another 2 inches or so of wood. So from the acrylic to the top of the volcano, that was all wood. All this is all little pieces. This is all just wood. Now how I did that was I glued the wood to the acrylic, and then I did what is called 3D carving on the CNC machine. Basically what that is I have a something called a grayscale, which is basically it's like a black and white image, but there's actually data in it. There's blacks, there's whites, there's grays, and then there's different levels of grays in between. Each different level of grays is equal to a height. So you end up with this 3D model, pretty much a 3D height map of, something like a landscape like I have here. Then what I did was I used a 1/4 inch end mill and basically just went all the way around, and it kept stepping down lower and lower, carving out these little pieces here. It kind of looked like a Minecraft landscape for a bit there, but then I used an even smaller bit, and for the next 7.5 hours, it just went back and forth, up and down, because I had it with a 2mm step over. So it went all the way across, up here, carved out all these little details here, all the way back across, and then it moved over 0.2 millimeters, came all the way back, up and down, all the way back and forth across, and it just did that for the next 7.5 hours. Then I was left with that carving. So what I did was I added some paint with a little bit of details, just to give it some more texture, make it look like more of a landscape. And I chose a volcanic landscape to go with his dragon-ish theme now, actually. So there's the volcano here. This is red metallic epoxy, so it has all these rivers of the lava that was just kind of like flowing around. And to set it all off, the reason I did it with the acrylic on the bottom was I went ahead and I polished the edges, and with some LEDs wrapped around the very base. This goes in here like this, just like that. And then finally, we have our lava landscape. Oh, and there we have it, folks. I'm really pleased with the way that the lava rivers light up. I gotta figure something out to cover up so you don't see the actual LEDs. But aside from that, I am very satisfied with the way that the rivers light up. I'm satisfied with the way that the exterior turned out. I love this marble look. You can see kind of like right here, the marble vein starts here and it travels that way. Same with down here, everything lines up. Like this one comes up and goes that way. This one comes up and blends with it. Everything looks gorgeous. It's smooth, it's shiny, and I'm very happy with it. The distro reservoir turned out great. It is very thick, just so you know, so it'll hold a lot of water. But that's about it. Oh, no, before I forget, there is one other thing. Really good thing that you can do is when you're doing custom, like an exterior like this, like a paint job or whatever, is to bring the exterior to the interior. It brings the two of them together and it looks, well, you know, it makes the thing look more like a whole. So for the graphics card, I am working on a back plate, and it is going to match this marble theme. I'm going to do the back plate the exact same way that I did the exterior. That just brings everything together and it just makes everything look more symmetrical, I guess you could say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. That was a lot of work, and I know it took a lot of time. But make sure you hit the thumbs up, get subscribed for some more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Dan out.